Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Coffee with CartLawAlabama. My name is Daryl Cartwright, and I'm an attorney based in Birmingham, Alabama, practicing law throughout the state of Alabama. Today's Coffee with CartLawAlabama topic is one that was user suggested and a very good topic. I think it's very important to some professions, some occupations, probably more than others, such as notary publics, who may come in contact with individuals who need legal advice and are just seeking that kind of information from the people they come in contact with. And the topic today, of course, is legal advice versus legal information. They sound similar, but not necessarily the case. They have some substantial different consequences, if you will. So without further ado, let's pull this up: legal advice versus legal information. The dilemma: you have someone who comes in contact and needs guidance on a legal matter, and for this purpose, legal matter doesn't mean just, hey, I've got a lawsuit, I've been sued in court, I've got a criminal matter or something of that nature. Although those are all legal matters, they're not the only kind of legal matters. Anything that really touches on the rights or responsibilities of the individual, that's a legal matter. Now, you have knowledge through your experience, your know-how, your own research, or whatever, and you could help that person. Watch out. Under Alabama law, and there's several statutes that address this, it is a misdemeanor to be considered to be engaged in the practice of law without a license. It's unauthorized practice of law. It carries a fine up to $500, imprisonment for a period not to exceed 6 months, or both. Be careful. Legal advice is an act of practicing law. So you can't give legal advice unless you are a licensed attorney. Legal information is not practicing law. So right at the beginning, we have a distinction, and it makes a huge difference. Advice, not okay. Legal information is okay. Those sound so similar. Let's see if we can drill down and maybe get a little better information, better guidance on what the difference is. Well, legal advice is when there is specific counsel being given to someone about their matter. It relates to a particular circumstance or a set of circumstances that the individual has regarding their rights, responsibilities, or duties. I'll give an example or two here in a minute. But one thing I want to point out, it's not just one-sided. The person giving that legal advice also has rights and responsibilities and duties as it relates to that information they give. What does that mean? Well, it means that if you give the wrong legal advice, or even if you give the right legal advice, but it was done in a way that they didn't follow it, couldn't follow it, didn't understand, something of that nature, you could have legal exposure for that. You could be sued for the incorrect information. I don't have this on my PowerPoint slide, but I had a situation years ago in which someone filed a deed, and it was a particular type of deed, and they were told to do it by someone else, not a lawyer, not an attorney, not a licensed attorney. Turned out filing that deed was the complete wrong thing to do. Well, in that situation, that person could have been sued for thousands of dollars because of the incorrect legal advice they've given. I'll give you one more example. It's not on the PowerPoints. Had a situation where someone did work for someone else on the home. It was working on a deck or something of that nature. The homeowner didn't pay them. There was some sort of dispute or whatever. The construction worker placed a lien in or filed a lien in probate court based upon information they were given by someone not a licensed attorney. Turned out that was incorrect. That's considered a cloud on the title and can give rise to a pretty substantial lawsuit called slander of title when it's done incorrectly, and it has to be done correctly. So because this Good Samaritan person was trying to give good information to them, they actually could have been held liable for a substantial amount of damages. So be careful. Legal advice examples. If someone asks you, what document should I use? What do I need in order to do this? You select that document for them, or they have information about completing some legal document. Could be a mortgage, could be a loan application, could be a marriage certificate. If you complete that legal document for them, that's giving legal advice. Picking out specific forms. Obviously, representing someone in court or sometimes an administrative law tribunal or in front of an administrative body. Now, you got to be careful here because sometimes that's okay. For example, there are enrolled tax preparers and there are licensed tax individuals. You actually pass an exam in front of the IRS or that the IRS gives, and it allows you to represent a client in that situation without being an attorney, without being a CPA in that kind of situation. So sometimes it's okay, but that's the exception to the general rule. I would tell you to beware and be careful when someone asks you, you've got a customer that you're doing some work for, and they ask you, should I file this? Do I qualify for that, etc.? Your response is probably legal advice. Legal information. Legal information is not the unauthorized practice of law. So it's not direct, it's not specific. It doesn't propose a specific or suggested action for the person. It's factual, it's generic or general to everyone, and doesn't address any one specific issue. Even lawyers give legal information sometimes without giving legal advice. Remember, if a lawyer gives legal advice and that legal advice is incorrect and relied upon, it potentially would give rise to that lawyer being subjected to exposure. So a lot of times they don't want to do this. One common example is through online message boards, and lawyers answer questions such as avo.com. I have an account on avo.com. I answer questions when I have time to do it. I enjoy trying to help individuals. A lot of times you can't really help them based upon a 2 or 3 sentence question because there's so much more involved in the fact scenario, but you try to give them a little bit of guidance. Well, even when that happens, you usually see a disclaimer that the lawyer writes. It's something like this one. Please understand the information provided is for general use only and should not be relied upon for specific legal advice, as no legal advice is intended. Information is for general information and education purposes only. And then there's some more about the attorney-client relationship as well. Obviously, I just pulled that from avo.com and an answer that I gave with that. Legal information doesn't give rise to the exposure that legal advice does. For non-lawyers, legal information doesn't subject you to criminal liability as legal advice might do. What can I do? What is legal information? Some things you can do, probably do without exposure, might include passing along information you heard, read, saw, as long as it's not specific to the person. Well, I saw on television there was a show concerning sexual harassment, and they said that you needed to file a charge of discrimination with the EEOC. You may want to go to a lawyer and have that checked out specifically. Legal information from online websites. Well, there's a free website on Attorney Cartwright's website, CartLawAlabama.com, and he has a page devoted to what you need to do to form a corporation under Alabama law. I don't have that, by the way, but that would be an example of something that you would be allowed to pass along. Someone might ask you, what does FLSA stand for? If you know it's Fair Labor Standards Act, you can tell them. Where can I find the website for more information on the EEOC? If it's EEOC.org, and I don't know that it is, but if it is, you can pass that along, that kind of thing. General information, not specific to their situation. In any event, it can be a very blurry line between legal advice and legal information. Step carefully. I would also urge you, even if you're passing along what you strongly believe is just general legal information, try to give that caveat. I see some very smart notaries doing this from time to time on the Facebook page. And they say, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not giving you legal advice. This is the legal information that I understand. And they do a really good job with that caveat. Now, that won't get you out of everything. If you're really giving legal advice, then you may have a problem. But make sure that you try to stay on the correct line of legal information rather than legal advice. I hope this has been helpful. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.